we've been really into rock climbing for a long time. And we were on a climbing trip up in Oregon, and we were basically hanging out around Smith Rocks. And it was summer and it was so hot. And we still were excited to climb, but it was like in the hundreds. It was miserable. So we had a friend there that lived in Oregon. He said, oh, hey, we should go raft this river. And that sounded so great because it'd been so hot. And so we went to this raft shop. We were going to rent some little inflatable kayak. And the whole way, Kathy and I are reading this book, trying to just soak up as much as we can about how am I going to survive in this kayak. We go out into the lake. Kathy's about waist deep. I'm sitting in the kayak. I've got the paddle, the helmet, the PFD. I'm all geared up. I look like a kayaker. And I flip over in this freezing cold water. Well, lo and behold, I actually stuck my first roll and roll up, probably with a little bit of Kathy's help, and come up. And I'm like, wow, that wasn't too hard. And before I knew it, Kathy and I, on the days when it was too hot to go climbing, or incidentally enough, too rainy to go climbing, kayaking became our go-to thing to do. And it's kind of shaped our life as far as where we go, what we do.
Coming back from a photo shoot nearly 10 years ago, Peter and Kathy Holcombe realized that they were merely coming home to mow the grass, pick up the mail, attend a few other errands, and then head out again on the next week for their next adventure. It dawned on them that if they downsized everything and moved into a life on the road, that they would always have their life with them, negating the need to return anywhere. And so they considered it, they deliberated, and they did it. They planned for well over a year, and when the decision was made, they mapped out their itinerary and work along the way. They sold off their brick and mortar business, a photo studio that they had been building for the past dozen years. Yet their largest hesitation was how they would educate their daughter, Abby, from the road. They had always been supportive of public education, yet knew something had to give for a life on the road. There was a number of trial and error with the educational opportunities, but they found a program that fits, and Abby is thriving. She is a part of the Junior Olympic whitewater paddling team. They've paddled the Grand Canyon together, Abby being one of the youngest people perhaps to have ever done so, paddling the entire 230 plus miles on her own. And they have adventured all over this country and now have begun their trek around the world, having just returned from 6 months in Europe. These guys are truly pioneers. They've been at it for almost 5 years now, and they have so much to share with us about building a business on the road, pursuing your passion, following a gut feeling, and learning how to thrive in new, ever-evolving environments. So I hope you enjoy the show this week with the Holcombes, also known as Famagogo.
Hey, Colin.
Hey, Peter. How are you?
Oh, let's see. I think I'm good. Kathy's here too.
Hello.
Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. And do you have Abby as well?
Yeah, she's right back here behind us.
Hey, Abby.
Hi.
How are things going for you guys?
They're good. They're, always changing a mile a minute in our worlds.
Yep, literally.
Yeah. But, we don't have to dive into that stuff. This call's about you guys and all the cool stuff you're doing.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of inspired that you guys are in Joshua Tree. Is that where you still are?
Yeah, we are. I just biked about 3 minutes down the road to the Copper Mountain Mesa Community Center, which is now my mobile office. No longer mobile. There's high-speed internet, a beautiful view, and a nice shade.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, here we are, overlooking the Joshua Tree mountain vista.
Perfect. I love it.
And where are you guys today?
We are in Portugal. We just got into southern Portugal, and we're just kind of getting it figured out here a little bit, but had to go hang out and do a little photography on the beach right at sunset. So that's where we've been.
Great. And yeah, you got to capture that magic hour.
Yeah, hopefully. It's pretty beautiful here. So
awesome. And are you paddling in the ocean at all, or are you guys sticking on waterways more inland?
We do both. So the waves haven't been really big here yet that we found. They're pretty. It's beautiful, but the waves are small. So we're hoping as we kind of kick around from the south side of Portugal out on the west side that the waves are going to get. Well, I know they're going to get much bigger. Some of the biggest waves in the world are over there, and we're not exactly looking for 100-footers right now, but there's a lot of good surf to be had. So we're going to be keeping our eyes out for getting out there in our kayaks and surfing some waves in the kayaks. But predominantly we're looking for rivers, but we can't resist a good wave in the ocean either, so it's fun.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was just picturing Abby dropping into Nazare on one of those big days. And
yeah.
We're headed that way for sure. I don't know about dropping in on the big one.
And it must actually be swell season now. They get the post hurricanes off the United States. Those are the ones that are spitting, the large swell into Portugal, correct?
Yeah, I think you're right. I looked at a surf report this morning for there, and it was saying anywhere from 10 to 20 footers.
Woo.
So, I mean, that's big for sure. But I think for there, it's a pretty calm day. So
yeah,
we'll be over that way in probably 3, maybe 4 days. And we'll see that it's supposed to get bigger the next 4 or 5 days and then start tapering down a little bit. But I guess you can't totally trust the surf report here, till maybe 2 days out. So we'll see. Hopefully we get to see a really big show. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, do you guys want to give us a little bit of an overview of the past few months? So, I mean, the past 5 years, I know you guys have been traveling around the U.S. in your RV, and I want to get into the decision as to why you did that, but just give us a sense of your day-to-day these past few weeks and few months as you've crossed the Great Atlantic to our neighboring Europe.
Yeah, so, in June, we flew over. Right before that, we shipped our Revel van. It's a Winnebago Revel. It's a Sprinter van. And we shipped it over from Maryland to Zeebrugge, Belgium. And that takes about 2 weeks for the vehicle to make the trip. And so then we timed it. So we flew over to Paris, had a couple of days, doing Paris city stuff. And then got a rental car, drove up to Zeebrugge. And luckily our van was there. And we got it out of the clink and then took off basically straight for Spain. Where Abby was competing in the World Championships of freestyle kayaking, representing, Team USA. So that was really cool. And we spent about a month in the Pyrenees in Spain in a little town called Sort. And that's where the competition was. And that went amazingly well. Abby ended up being 4th in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Abby.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then let's see from there, this is going to be kind of condensed, but we basically after Spain, we shot over to the French Alps and went to a couple kayak festivals over there and paddled a bunch of rivers. And then from there up to Switzerland. And then in Switzerland, we decided that we really wanted to go to Norway. But, there's definitely like a window for Norway. So we wanted to be up there while the weather's nice. So we decided just to blaze up to Norway. So we crossed Germany, Netherlands, all that, and then ended up in Norway. And we did a month in Norway, working our way basically all the way up through Voss and Lofoten, and then on up to Nordkapp, which is the highest point in Europe that you can drive to. I guess it's the highest point, period. And did that, and then came back down after a month in Norway, and we went to probably the world's largest RV show, which is the Caravan Salon in Dusseldorf, Germany. And that was pretty eye-opening to see how Europe does the whole RV caravan. It's everything from vans to, campers like we think of in the States, to trailers, to unimogs, to all kinds of stuff. And their big Class A's, there's not near as many of the really big RVs, but the ones they had garages that were made perfectly for Porsches to dock into, and some really, just eye-opening stuff. But basically, van life is alive and well in Europe in so many facets, and so many different people doing it for different reasons. But it was really neat to go to that show and experience that. And then from there, we went over to the UK and did a whole tour of the UK, hitting a bunch of kayak places. We probably spent the most time in Nottingham, England, at the British Paddle Sports Center there, and then went up to Scotland and explored all of Scotland. And then we crossed back over, crossed Germany, crossed Switzerland over to Austria, and we kind of did a quick trip through Austria, but then over to Slovakia and Slovenia, and paddled some rivers over there that I'd been really wanting to do, on the Socha River, which has this glowing blue water that's just otherworldly. and then down to Croatia, and we did a circumnavigation of the
Isle of Rab.
Isle of Rab, yeah, and went the whole way around it, and camping and whatnot. That took 5 days, and that was really cool. And then we kind of explored the rest of Croatia, got up into the mountains, and it's just amazing. And then we decided either we're going to go south to Greece or we're going to go over to Spain again and Portugal, which this is kind of a hot spot to be this time of year, just because the weather is so nice here. And so we decided, let's go to Spain and Portugal again. So we really loved our time in Spain, but we only saw really the little part of the Pyrenees where we were. So now we've kind of done the whole southern Spain, and now we're into southern Portugal, and here we are. We've got 3 weeks left, and then we're going to do all of Portugal, and then we ship we get on a ferry and go to the UK from northern Spain. And then we'll have to drop our van off at the port there in Southampton. And then the van will come back to the U.S. and we'll spend a couple of days in London, and then we'll fly back and hopefully meet it all well in Maryland again. Yeah. So it's been 6 months, 6-month tour, and it's been amazing. We've seen so much, but we're kind of happy and sad to be going back home to the USA. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through your Instagram page as you were sharing the highlights, and
oh my gosh,
it looks incredible.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been an eye-opener. We've been to Europe. Kathy and I came to Europe on our honeymoon and did a lot of climbing here back 20 years ago, and mostly in the Alps. And I can't say it's changed. Some things have changed a little bit, but for the most part, it's just as amazing. But being in our own van has been an amazing experience where, last time we rented a car and we kind of tent camped all over the place. And this time just being able to be anywhere we want and having, instead of 5 weeks, we had 6 months. And it's just been incredible to really feel like we're getting entrenched in the culture and what it's like, and getting comfortable driving on the skinny roads and all that. It's been really great. We've learned a lot.
And you must be happy that you have the Revel for this journey instead of the original vehicle that you've been driving around in the past few years, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been much easier to drive here. In fact, everybody looks at our van. They're like, oh, my gosh, it's so big. We always kind of laugh because, like in the States, this would be considered very small, especially for 3 people. But it's true. It feels really big in some places. And then, most of the time, though, it's been perfect for what we're doing.
So how did you guys jump? And Kathy or Abby, if you guys want to jump in at all, how did the idea for the trip to Europe come about? Was it particularly based around the Junior World Championship?
I think that played a role in where we went first. But this actually all started as just kind of a crazy idea that I said we should just take an RV around the world. And we had seen most of North America. We'd been to 49 states. We still haven't taken an RV to Hawaii, but we're still working on figuring that out. And after seeing all that, North America started feeling really small. And I was like, we should just keep going and explore what's over the next horizon. And so we set our sights on taking a Winnebago around the world. And it coincided with the World Championships in Europe. And so we picked that as our first destination. And we thought that it would be kind of a nice transition. It's so similar to the U.S. in so many ways. We thought that would be kind of a good warm up to get us ready for the other continents that might be a little less like home.
I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
So you guys have been on the road for, correct me if I'm wrong, at least 5 years as a family. Is that right?
Yes. We're wrapping up our 6th year right now in June. So it's been a long time. It's been the best thing that we ever did. It started out with a road trip when Abby was 10 years old, and Peter and I were coming back from a photography assignment in Moab, Utah, and we just wanted to stay in the desert a few more days. And in reality was we were coming home, mowing the grass, doing the laundry, and then heading out to another great place to do a photo shoot for work. And we were like, man, all we want to do is just stay and climb for a few days and hike and bike and all of that. And on that drive home, I was like, well, what if we got rid of the house? What if we didn't have to go home? What if we could just stay? And Peter like laughed out loud. He was like, "There's no way we can do that. We have a house, we have a business, we have a kid." And so, we just kind of tabled it for a little bit, but it's one of those things, like those really important dreams, they just keep coming back, and we kept talking about it more and more. And as we started really thinking about what was holding us back from living this way, it was just us being afraid of doing something that we didn't know anything about. And once we really isolated that, then we just had to work through why we were afraid and decide if it was actually a dangerous, bad decision or if it was just the unknown. And, it's one of those things that you really can't answer. And so we decided that we would just try it for a little while. And so we booked a year's worth of photo shoots and decided that we would do those from the road. And then we could decide if we wanted to come back and reestablish our business in a physical location or if we would just keep going. And it turned out that it was the best thing we ever did. And here we are almost 6 years later, going strong and loving it.
That's amazing. And if I can back you up a little bit, Kathy, when you realized that it was only your fear that was holding you back, what kind of fear was it for you as a family with, having a career, a community, a sense of your life and just uprooting all that for a dream? What can you talk me a little bit through what that decision process was like and how you overcame that? Because for us at the Rewilding Parenthood podcast, that's really the heart of why I interview people, is because it is so hard to do these major decisions. Yet every time I speak to somebody, they always say the same thing. We're so happy that we did it. And I can't imagine what my life would be like if we hadn't.
Yeah, that's a really important thing. We were scared of, we built this business for 10 years and it was thriving and everything was really going great, except, we got past the whole building the business phase that was exciting, and we were kind of just wrapped up in just the grind, and we were looking for something new and interesting, and we love to travel. We've always loved to travel. But basically what it came down to is my mom had a stroke, and my parents had worked all their life to, do the normal thing. They had the house, the cars, the retirement, and they were retired at that point, and they were getting ready to head to Europe themselves on a big trip. And the night before they left, she had a stroke. And so then that's basically paralyzed the whole left side of her body, like so many stroke victims. And it's uprooted their whole life, And at that point, I saw that, and we went through that as a family. And I realized right there that there's no guarantee that tomorrow's going to be what you think it's going to be. And at that point, I was like, it's not a matter of us being scared or not, or what this might do to our career or any of that. It's like, if this is what we want to do, we got to go for it, because who knows, I could walk in front of a bus tomorrow and it could be lights out. So that really motivated me to be like, yeah, I want to do these things in my life. And it's still something I think about almost. It's a major part of how we make decisions. If we really want to do something, do it. What's holding you back? You might as well go for it now. And, life could be a really long thing, or it could be a really short thing, but you got to make it exactly what you want it to be every day. And so that's kind of what we try to do now, is really thinking of it as a big picture, but also as a day by day. What's it like if this is the last day? Is this how you really want to live your life? So
it's a wonderful philosophy. Go ahead, Kathy.
We didn't just throw caution to the wind either. We took about a year to pull all of the pieces together to make it a risk that we were willing to take. And so for us, like I said, we booked a whole year's worth of work in advance. So we knew that we would have income coming in throughout that year. And so once we had our income in place, we also got rid of any debt that we had. We decided to sell our home so that we didn't have an anchor point. And so basically, whenever we started in the middle, June 16th, 2014, all ties were just kind of tied up. Everything was tied up. The house was gone. We didn't have that responsibility. All the bills were gone. We didn't have that responsibility. We basically had a clean slate. and we took the gamble. And what we found is that the work that we started to focus on really changed. And so when we didn't have all those responsibilities of just running that rat race to pay for a big house and this lifestyle that we had built in the suburbs, all of a sudden we had a lot of time and a lot more money than what we were used to. And that gave us this huge amount of freedom to pursue the things that we were really interested in. And so Peter started doing personal photography projects. I started writing, and it just evolved into the career that we had always dreamed about, but we didn't even believe that it existed until we just started doing it. So it was an amazing process through the whole thing.
That's awesome. And I listened to a few of your other podcasts that you were highlighted on, the Dirtbag Diaries. And I know you had mentioned there part of the decision through, deciding to hit the road was to show Abby that, you were the kind of parents that were willing to confront your fears and go after your dreams. And I don't know if you're still there, Abby, or if you've jumped to the back of the van, but do you feel like you've been able to embody that spirit yourself, or have you seen your parents overcome these challenges, and has that inspired you to take on anything yourself?
Definitely, yeah. I think I've taken it on in different ways because I'm a kid, but definitely throughout my kayaking, I have the same mindset, I guess. And when I was 12, I went down the Grand Canyon, and it's a really big trip, 280 miles of really big whitewater. But I had a goal that I really wanted to kayak the whole entire Grand Canyon, and I wanted to challenge myself with all those big rapids. So I had the same mindset, and I took it piece by piece, and I overcome a lot of challenges and huge rapids, and I paddled the whole entire length of the Grand Canyon. And so little things like that. And I started my own business this year and stuff like that.
Wow. And just so I will put this in the show notes, but anybody that's curious on your story, that particular podcast with the Dirtbag Diaries, it gave me chills listening to it. And I'm getting chills now just thinking about that moment of you and your dad, all of you looking at lava and, just really trying to understand what that's like through your eyes when you said you were 12 years old.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So yeah, congratulations. And it's so awesome to see all of your accomplishments on the road. And yeah, it's so cool. One thing I'm curious about, a lot of parents that have older children, they feel like it's too hard to pull them away from their friends. Is that something that you felt was a challenge for you, or have you found your community on the road to be just as interesting or more?
Well, thank you so much. And my community has grown so much, especially with the international travels this year and the World Championships. I know people from all around the United States as well as Europe now, which is really cool. And I'm super excited to continue our trip around the world and meet new friends.
Great. And give you a little plug here. What is your new business?
I am in the process of building a public speaking business. So my goal is to go around to schools and show students who don't have the same opportunities as I do that there are plenty of opportunities around them, and to take advantage of all the cool things that they have and to do things outside of their comfort zone.
That is wonderful.
Thank you.
So this is the water season, guys. So I mean, there's so much areas that we could go or places that we could cover, but maybe Peter, if you could take us back to how water became a big part of your life and how that's transitioned to become a part of the family life.
Yeah. So how did water become a part of our life? This kind of has a funny story, maybe. We've been really into rock climbing for a long time. And this was back when Kathy and I were in college. And we were on a climbing trip up in Oregon. And we were basically hanging out around Smith Rocks. And it was summer and it was so hot. And we still were excited to climb. But it was like in the hundreds. It was miserable. So we had a friend there that lived in Oregon. He said, oh, hey, we should go raft this river. And that sounded so great because it'd been so hot. And so we went to this raft shop. We were going to rent some little inflatable kayaks and whatever else we could find. And we go in this place, and I'd done a little bit of commercial whitewater rafting and canoeing and stuff. But we walk into the store, and I see instantly, my eyes go straight to this red kayak that's in the corner. It's a Dancer. And my friends are looking at these rafts and to rent them. And I was like, hey, I want to rent that. And the guy at the store was like, well, you kind of got to have some experience, before we can rent you a kayak, because it's like a step up from a raft. And I was like, oh yeah, I've done lots of, canoeing and stuff. I think it'll be fine. And so I maybe embellished my story a little bit. But anyway, I walked out of that store with that red kayak, and my friends had a raft. We got a couple of rafts. So I got this raft, this kayak and all the gear, and I was like fired up. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. So we head to the river. We go to the Mckenzie River, which isn't a super crazy river, but it's definitely whitewater. And on the way up there, I was like, gosh, I've got this kayak, but, I have friends who are kayakers, and I knew they could roll kayaks and do all this neat stuff. And I was like, how do you do that? And so this was before the internet, right? So we go to the library in Corvallis, Oregon, and go to the sports section, and I pull up this William Neely book that is about, it's actually entitled Kayak, and it's a cartoon how-to kayak book. And I open it up and I look at it. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I check it out. We jump in the car. We have like a 3 or so hour drive up to the river. And the whole way, Kathy and I are reading this book, trying to just soak up as much as we can about how am I going to survive in this kayak? And so then we look on the map. There's a lake. We stop at this lake. We get the kayak down. And in the corner of this book, if you flip your fingers through it, it's like a cartoon. And it shows a little cartoon, moving cartoon, animated cartoon of this character rolling a kayak, taking you through the steps. So I watched that like 100 times. I flipped through it. Okay, I'm ready to try it. We go out into the lake. Kathy's about waist deep. I'm sitting in the kayak. I've got the paddle, the helmet, the PFD. I'm all geared up. I look like a kayaker. And I flip over in this freezing cold water. Well, lo and behold, I actually stuck my first roll and roll up, probably with a little bit of Kathy's help, and come up. And I'm like, wow, that wasn't too hard. And then did it a few more times and paddled around in the lake a bit, got a feel for the boat. And then the next day, I go down the river. So all's great. I'm loving it. It's just awesome. And we get to the first kind of sizable rapid, and I hit the first wave. It's great. I hit the second wave. It's great. Third wave. Next thing I know, I'm on my head and I'm upside down. Well, I go for my roll. It doesn't really work the same as it did in the flat water as it does in the white water. So I end up swimming. I come out of the boat. I'm swimming down the rapid. It's a pretty benign rapid. So, it took me a little bit to get the water back out of the boat, get back in the river. We go on down. Well, I end up probably swimming 4 or 5 times that day, which wasn't a deterrent at all. I actually walked away from that day being so fired up to go kayaking more. It was amazing. So then we get off that trip. I had another friend who was a climber, kayaker, and he just bought a new boat. So I bought his old boat. I started piecing together my own gear. And before I knew it, Kathy and I, on the days when it was too hot to go climbing, or incidentally enough, too rainy to go climbing, kayaking became our go-to thing to do. And then about when Abby was, I guess Abby wasn't born yet, but soon thereabouts, it got to be a really great thing for us to do as a young family, because we could go out with some friends that had kids, all as kayakers. And then when Abby was born, this was especially important. The dads would go out and do a morning run, and usually we paddle something a little harder. Then the moms would go out and do something as moms, and we'd take turns watching the kids, and we'd do that all weekend. And so it made for a really great weekend where we could all get to go do the thing we wanted to do, but yet, we had the kids taken care of. And so we did that for a number of years. And then we bought our own family raft and started doing a bunch of multi-day raft trips where usually it was me rowing the raft and Kathy kayaking along and Abby in the raft with me. And that was good for a little while. Then when Abby was 4, we bought her a tiny little Jackson kayak, Fun One, which is the smallest commercially made kids kayak. And she took to it right away, but, basically in pools and lakes at first, and just getting, just slapping around in the water and having a good time. And then we'd go on these raft trips. She would paddle the flat water parts in her own little kayak. And then we got to the rapids. She'd jump out in the raft and we'd go through those in the big raft. Well, she started getting better and better over the years. And eventually it was Kathy or me rowing the raft. And we started kind of arguing about who had to row this raft because it wasn't near as fun as the kayak. So then eventually the raft got sold and we started doing a lot of multi-day trips out of our kayaks. We put all of our camping gear and food and everything we needed to survive for 3 to 7 days in our kayaks. And we started doing trips like the San Juan River in southern Utah. And at that point, Abby really kind of started taking off with it. She got a really solid roll and was running harder and harder whitewater. And I don't know. And now kayaking has kind of not totally replaced climbing for us. I still love to climb, but honestly, I do a lot more paddling than I do climbing these days. And it's kind of shaped our life as far as where we go, what we do. And now with Abby paddling at the level she is, we're just trying to keep up. So I don't know if that's what you had in mind with that question, but that's kind of how it's happened with us.
Sure.
So water is an integral part. It really shapes where we go, what we do. A lot of, our friends are all the same way. They're just as into kayaking as we are. And it's built a lot of amazing relationships with some really interesting people and really taken us to some amazing places that we would have never have discovered otherwise. Climbing did that as well. And that's kind of the thing I like about these sports that take you off the beaten path and maybe have a travel element involved where you're really going somewhere to do something. Takes you to places that 90% of the people who just drive around to see things might never discover because they have no reason to go to these wild places.
Yeah, it really is a testament to your philosophy. I mean, you've really built a life around this type of adventure, not only through the things that you pursue as a passion, but you've built work around it. And now your daughter is building, Abby, you're building a career around, or whatever you want to call it, a pursuit, a passion around an ethos. And I'm just looking through your website, your photography right now, and it's really stunning. It's really inspiring.
Thank you. Thanks so much for saying that.
And so this around the world trip that you're on, so if the North America was the warm up the past 5 years, Europe has been the appetizer. You're coming back, and what are you looking forward to, and what's coming next for you guys?
Well, Europe has been amazing. We're really, honestly, it's funny, you do a trip like this and you realize what you miss from home. It makes it really apparent. And so we are looking forward to getting back to the States and seeing friends that we haven't seen for 6 months and going to some of our favorite rivers and all of that. But we're basically going to come back and do our normal summer tour through Colorado, Utah, Idaho, all that. And then it's looking like right now, Abby's going to come back to Europe and do the World Cup series, which is a series of kayak competitions in Europe. And then as soon as that's done, we're going to basically get our van to probably Colombia, and we're going to start our trek through South America. And that'll be the next tour. We're thinking that's probably going to be another 6-month thing. But boy, 6 months hasn't really been enough in Europe. We thought it sounded like a long time, but I think we could all do another a complete year here or more. But we'll see, but that's the next thing is South America. Go down there and explore. I really want to go to Patagonia and just Chile and Argentina alone is just loaded with so many great things for us to explore as overland travelers and as kayakers and climbers. But we're hoping to maybe make it to Antarctica too. We have something in the works there that we hope maybe works out that'll take us there. And I don't know, check out what's down south. I've been a little bit down there, but it's just like our first trip to Europe was kind of just a brush over, and it's going to be really, really neat to get down there and really take it in and learn better Spanish and, get to really experience it.
Yeah, maybe we'll see you on the journey. I don't know. Well, it seems like all of our plans are evolving a little bit. It looked like I was looking at your map. It seemed like perhaps you were going to drive down there, but now it seems like you might skip all of Mexico and Central and ship to Colombia.
That's kind of our current thought, is just to go down to Colombia and start off there. Because you got to pay to ship anyway to get around the Darien Gap. Yeah. So our thought is it's pretty easy to get down into Mexico and even Central America. So we in some ways we feel like the clock is kind of ticking. Abby's 15. She's already talking about getting her own van and doing her own trips. So So, I don't know how much longer she's going to want to hang out with mom and dad and go do all this stuff. I mean, I think she's going to continue to travel and probably travel in a very similar fashion. But I think she's going to be looking for purely whitewater things to do and maybe not want us around for all of it, as bad as that sounds. So we'll see. We want to make the most of it. And not that the Central America and Mexico aren't amazing. We're looking forward to that as well. But I don't know.
You got to make decisions. Yeah.
Chile and Argentina are really calling us.
Yeah.
There's some amazing rivers down there that we want to go experience. So
I think that's smart. And, you can, like you said, you can zip right down to Mexico and Central whenever you want. But the South America trip is a much bigger commitment. So you might as well, do it now.
Yeah.
I think that's what we learned most on this trip here is we have seen so much, and we thought we would be able to check it all off the list. And our list is probably 4 times bigger than when we first arrived. We just want to go deep into an area instead of just surveying everything. And so that's why we decided to just focus a little bit on this next leg.
Yeah, it's a part of the van life culture is when you at some point you realize, okay, this is actually not enjoyable if I keep driving every day or seeing new things. I just want to slow down and appreciate a few less places. And you can have a completely different experience if you do that.
For
exactly.
Sure.
Yes.
That's so true.
And so, Kathy, one of the other podcasts I listened to, which I was really inspired by, and I'm curious, could you speak to how this lifestyle's helped you take on some of your own adventures? I know you spoke to a little bit of traveling on your own and taking on some bigger trips by yourself. Is that something that's still a part of your philosophy and what you're doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Last year, I decided that I wanted to do 1,000 miles of self-powered adventures. And some of the things that I wanted to do, Peter and Abby were really excited about. And some of them they had absolutely no interest in at all. They definitely prefer whitewater over flat water. And there were some things that I really wanted to experience that they weren't interested. And so I ended up doing many of those miles by myself. And it was the first time I'd ever really entered the wilderness alone. I mean, Peter and I have been adventure partners for 20 years. And so it started with a solo backpack trip on the Appalachian Trail through Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And I absolutely fell in love with it. It was hard and it was scary, and I missed my family terribly, but it was the most empowering thing I've ever done. And that led to a solo canoe trip through the Boundary Waters with my dog Tucker. And then it led to a 100-mile solo paddle across the Everglades.
Wow.
Which had a lot of interesting wildlife encounters along the way. But it's my favorite thing. I love getting out and just being quiet and calm and still in the wild. And sometimes I love to do that with my family, and sometimes I love to do that by myself, and sometimes I love to do it with just girlfriends or whatever. And so it's definitely ignited something inside of me, and I already have 3 expeditions planned for when we get back to the States. I'm pretty stoked on it. So yeah, it's a powerful, wonderful thing to be out in the woods alone.
That's awesome. Do you feel like that has helped to inspire other women to do the same and follow your footsteps?
Yeah, it's been really neat. I love to write and I love to share my experiences. And so whenever I'm out, I actually journal every single day and I post it. And I do it really for me so that I can remember that experience. And so I was posting about my backpack trip. I was actually using the Garmin InReach to message Peter every night, my journal for the day. And he was posting it on social media. And it was extraordinary. All of these women that were amazing adventurers and some of my role models that I really have looked up to for decades are writing me saying, "Go, Kathy, you can do it. This is amazing. We're so inspired. I love this." And just the love that I felt out of all of that was really exciting. And I've done presentations in front of groups and had so many different women come up to me and say, I think I might be able to do this too. After hearing your experience, I think I want to try this.
Wow.
And that's a really neat thing. That's really exciting for me. And that's motivated me to keep writing these stories and keep sharing them and hope that other people get out and do the same thing.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's I think why we're all here some way, somehow.
Yeah. Hope that we make a difference.
Yeah, it is kind of a funny balance when you maybe choose to live this lifestyle, which can feel at sometimes maybe a little self-centered, when you're not not helping out with community in the way that you'd like, or your career is, kind of very self-focused. But then when you take a step back and you meet some other people that are inspired by what you're doing, or, they share a story, oh, because you did this, it's helped me take this big leap in my life. It all starts to make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just a different concept of community. I feel like we have such a broad community and friends all over the world. And it's interesting how we weave paths and connect with people from the States over in Europe and vice versa. And, the community just keeps growing and growing. So it's just a different way of thinking about that, I think.
Absolutely. And one last question, because, this really is for parents, but can you talk to us a little bit about Abby's education and how you got comfortable with however you decided to do that and what that looked like for you guys?
Yeah, so I am a former middle school science teacher. I taught in public schools in Colorado for 10 years, and was a firm advocate of public education. And so when we decided to live this life on the road, it was a big deal for Peter and I to even consider options outside of a traditional school. And it was one of the things, though, we agonized in our planning phases. Oh my gosh, what is this going to do? How's this going to impact Abby and her future? And we definitely talked it to death in the months leading up to our departure date. And so it's definitely evolved over the years. We started out with a charter school where Abby had to log in from 8 to 3 every day, essentially. And it was basically like doing a normal school day, staring at a computer all day long. And we did that for a year and realized that that was not a good option. It was just tedious and difficult to find internet that was good enough to do it. And really, Abby was wasting an inordinate amount of time just staring at a screen, watching a bar, a loading bar, And so after that first year, we were like, that's definitely not a good fit. And so the next 2 years, we did an online program that was work at your own pace. And so it was, do this activity, check it off, do the next one. And that was definitely a better logistical fit for our family because she could just work through it, get it done while we were driving, and then we could go out and do whatever we wanted to do whenever we got wherever we were going. So it was kind of that thing where it checked the accredited school off the list, but she really wasn't gaining a lot out of it. And so the last couple of years for high school or for middle school, she did a variation of a textbook program and an online program. And it was a more rigorous academic program, but we were still not super excited about what was happening. What she was doing was reading about Spanish in a textbook instead of being in Spain speaking Spanish, and it was just this gap of what was really happening in the real world and what she was working on in school. And so we went and talked to a school principal in Colorado, and we're like, we are struggling. Our kiddo is a super smart, wonderful student, and she's hating the work that she's doing in school, and it's demotivating and demoralizing, and she has all these wonderful, rich opportunities around her. And the principal's like, why don't you guys just do a homeschool route? She's going to have the same opportunities to get into college unless she's planning to go to an Ivy League school, and even then there are ways around it. And then you can really let her focus on what she's interested in and focus on what she's passionate about. and take advantage of all the opportunities that you guys are experiencing out in the world. And when he said that, it was like finally someone from the education establishment said, yes, you have permission to do this, that this is actually a good thing. And even then, Peter and I were a little bit hesitant. What does that mean for her future? What's that going to be like for college and career and all of that? And again, it was just like when we sold our house, it was all these ideas that we had in our head of what school needs to be and what it's always been. And, why are we thinking these things the way that we're thinking? And once we finally got the green light that Abby really will be okay with a homeschool degree or diploma, school has changed radically. So now we are piloting a program for road school students with this really innovative principal in Colorado. And basically, it revolves around 5 passages where Abby has to do essentially a huge independent study project, 5 of them. And that'll be her high school transcript. And he's going to help us with that part. And they revolve around different themes. So one of them is around career. One of them is around adventure. And Abby can tell you more about that. But basically, she dives deep into a theme and makes it whatever she wants it to be. So this first one, she's pursuing her public speaking business. And so she's learning about how to do accounting for a business and how to do marketing for a business and how to write a professional speech and how to do a business plan and all of these things that kids do in school, but she's doing it to actually start her career. So it's a pretty exciting way to think about learning. And what it all comes down to for Peter and I is that we want her to be a person who loves learning, a person who can find information on her own and who can contribute to the world. And as long as she can do all of those things, then we consider that a successful life. So if she decides to go to college and pursue a career that needs that's great. If she wants to focus on public speaking and put her heart into that and contribute to the world that way, that's okay too. As long as she is, doing her best and putting her gifts out into the world.
That's great. I think a lot of people are really, just like you, afraid of what happens with the education. And it seems like you've really pioneered a path that would make sense to a lot of people. And it absolutely makes sense to me. Well, Abby, what do you think about your experience so far? Does it feel like the program that you're on now is best suited for you?
I feel like the open school program has been so perfect for me. There's been so many days so many times in the last few years of traditional online school where I've turned down amazing opportunities, from training in my kayaking to touring factories to all sorts of cool educational opportunities. And it's really cool to start saying yes this year.
Wonderful philosophy. Wonderful philosophy. Yes, be a yes person. Great. Guys, is there anything else that you feel like you wanted to share with us that we didn't cover today?
Wow, I don't know. I guess our biggest mission statement, if you want to call it that, is just don't be afraid to take your kids out and get them dirty and go do the things you've always loved to do. Because if you show your kids how much fun that is, there's a good chance they're going to think it's fun too. And then you're going to have amazing people to go do fun things with the rest of your life. So get out there and have fun as a family.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. That was a very inspiring interview.
Oh, good.
And I know Sophie really enjoyed meeting you at Overland Expo, and she kept saying every day, you got to meet these guys, you got to meet these guys. And you know what those shows are like. You just,
it's hard.
You walk around and you chat, and then, you're not there, they're not there, or whatever. But so nice to talk to you. And I really enjoyed listening to your other podcasts and digging into your some of your blog posts and just seeing all the amazing work you're putting out there. It's really, really inspiring. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And we hope to see you down the road somewhere. we'll go paddle a river or climb a rock.
Yeah, totally. We just got this place in Joshua Tree, so come park it. The plan is to not be here too long. The journey will continue, but you got a place here if you need it.
Awesome. That's a good place. Thank you so much. We would love that.
We love J Tree. So.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it from us. So thank you, guys.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
hey, thank you so much. This has been fun, and we look forward to kind of hopefully meeting up with you guys somewhere down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Yeah, tell everybody hi.
Okay, we will.
Okay, bye.
Ciao. As I said before, the Holcombes are truly pioneers. They've been at it for 5 years now, and even for us, they remain an inspiration as a family who has done it and continues to do it and finds the pleasure and contentment of a life on the road. They've found a way to pursue their passions, make money on the road, create an environment for their daughter to thrive, and continue to travel the world. I mean, what else could you ask for? So make sure you follow these guys on Instagram. You can follow them by following Peter Holcombe. You can get them online at famagogo.com. If you want to follow Abby and her progress on the whitewater Olympic team, you can check that out at adventurous.miss on Instagram. And in the show notes, we'll have all these links along with Abby's new public speaking career that we touched on in the show, which we're super excited about. So make sure you book her in at your school or at your business if you want to hear what a young junior Olympian has to say. So that's it for the show this week. Please come back next week. We have a family afloat, another family that's living on the water. They are also pioneers. They've been at it since about 2014 and before, of course, but they've been sailing around the world since 2014. So these guys have a lot to share with us. They're a family of 5 aboard a 40-foot sailboat, and they're currently down in New Zealand where they've been parked for the last year. Rewilding Parenthood was produced by Afuera Vida, sound and editing by Mercedes Riva, and music by Thomas Tyrell. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to support us, please consider leaving us a review, sharing with a friend, or posting this somewhere where other people can see it. So hope to have you back next week. Adios.